Start. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, sir, for calling me to speak on the motion of thanks to the President's address, and I am participating in that. The President's address is the customary annual address that is a balance sheet of the government's work in the past year and what is intends to do in the future. But before I come to the main thrust of it, there are certain issues which the Honorable President raised on which there can't be any dispute. In para 2, she talks about the consensus on terrorism, and that is of extreme concern of all of us. I think in this house I must reiterate that the fight against terror is non negotiable and there can be no compromise on it. But it should be a fight against all manifestations of terror. I would like the government to make sure that there is no discrimination between the various terrorist activities that take place. Terror must be fought as terror. It is anti national. As I have said in para 2 itself, the Honorable President has referred to a certain incident in West Bengal, an attack by the Maoists, and the need for the country as a whole is to rise to fight this menace. It is very correct. I have heard the Honorable Member from the principal opposition also raising this concern, and I think the House on this aspect appears to be completely united. The Prime Minister has repeatedly stated that moist violence is the single largest threat to internal security in our country. But, sir, what we now want to know from the government and what has not been referred to by the Honorable President is the fact that there are members of the Union Cabinet themselves who have actually said that that incident which the Honorable President has referred to in her speech was not committed by the Moists. They have gone on record to state that stop this military operation, not military but the operations against the Moists in our country, and ask them to come for talks even without adjuring violence. Now, this discordant voice coming from within the cabinet itself does not augur well for the country. The Honorable Prime Minister is not present at the moment, but the government will have to owe an explanation to this country and to this House. How can this government survive with such a major contradiction where the Prime Minister who heads the cabinet says that moist violence is the gravest threat to India's internal security, and you have a member of the cabinet who actually denies that moist have perpetrated this attack that the Honorable President refers to in para 2. Now, this contradiction cannot coexist. This has to be settled, and we are waiting for the government to answer how they are going to settle this contradiction and what is the explanation for this contradiction. That is something which the August House would like to know. Otherwise, the sincerity of the government in fighting this moist menace itself will come under a question mark, which is not good for the future of our country and our nation. In this, the collective stand of the government must be brought out very clearly, and we are expecting that answer. There are many other aspects that the Honorable President has covered, but because of lack of time, I may not able to explain our position on all of them. I will mention some of the important issues before I come to the main thrust of the Honorable President's address. In para 15, for instance, the Honorable President talks in terms of the armed forces, but there is no mention of what progress has been made on this vexatious issue of one rank, one pension. This is something all the political parties have espoused in the past, but on that issue there has been no clarity. In para 55, the Honorable President talks in terms of delivery of justice. Sir, for the credibility of our nation itself, the credibility which must be there in our people, a very important issue is that we have a system that delivers justice that has come under very severe question mark in our country. In major disturbances and riots, whether it is anti-Sikh riots, whether it is communal riots, many of the perpetrators have gone unpunished. Many of the commission reports have unimplemented. So, in this connection, I wish there was a mention. The concern expressed by the Honorable President should have been followed up with some plan of action by the government, which unfortunately we do not see here. There is also not a mention of the fact that there is a need for a National Judicial Commission, which all of us have agreed at one point of time or the other. But why is not the National Judicial Commission being appointed, which should take into account very important issues concerning the integrity and independence of the judiciary, the appointment of judges, the issues of complaints that come against the honorable judges, which need to be disposed of as soon as possible, because the more you keep them lingering, the greater are the doubts on the integrity of the judiciary, which we cannot afford. So, on these issues, I wonder why there was no mention of the National Judicial Commission. In para 71, the Honorable President talks in terms of the contribution of the non-resident Indians to our country. In that connection, unfortunately, there is no reference at all to the problems being faced by our NRIs, particularly in the Gulf areas, particularly those who come from Kerala. There has been a list of demands that they have raised with the government for a number of years. The money collected from them by the central government should be used for their future and their post retirement benefits. But it is not being done. There is no mention of that list either. Likewise, sir, there are many other issues that the Honorable President has touched, which, if time permits, I will get into.